Welcome to Soul Podcasting. This is a show where I give podcasting advice, strategies, and support for heart-aligned entrepreneurs who want to share your message with purpose, make an impact, and grow your network. You're listening to episode number 10. So on this show today, we're going to be talking about how to launch your very first podcast with confidence. But before we get started talking about that, I do want to remind you of my brand new podcast program, which is my VIP Podcaster Power Launch program. It's a 2-week program for a few of you. I have the doors open for just a few people at a time, so I can take a few right now, and we are creating your podcast. That's what we do. My team and I are helping you to ideate, create, and launch your brand new show. So if you've been on the fence and you just need a little bit of encouragement, a little push in the direction, we're going to do more than give you a little push. We're going to actually help get you motivated, started, launched, and celebrated. So you will have everything from start to finish, including 4 episodes that you record and that we help you with the editing and the engineering, the intros, the outros, the music, all the edits you could ever need for either video or audio. And we are just kind of your on-call team. So we'll be here for you if you have any questions along the way. But I provide the material for you, the curriculum, and we go through it together to make sure that your branding is on point and that your message is on point and that you have the content you need for the rest of the year so that you can podcast confidently and not be afraid that you're going to run out of ideas. So that's what my program is specifically for, those of you who are on the edge and want to get a start in podcasting. So now that I've announced that, I want to make sure you know about that before we get into our topic, but do visit impactpodcastcoach.com for more details about my program. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to launch your podcast with confidence. So it's not always the easiest thing to do, right? To put yourself in a position where everybody's going to hear from you and that week after week or month after month, your family, your friends, your relatives, your support system, people that you've known since you were a baby are going to be listening to you talk on your podcast. And so there may be a little bit of self-sabotage there just because of imposter syndrome maybe, or just not feeling like you would measure up or that you would do it the right way. So I want you to know that there is no 100% right way to do podcasting. You just do it in accordance with your desire to share your message and with the ability that you have to work with the tools and the technology that are available to you. And you can get better with time. And as you practice and you do more podcasting, you'll get better and better and better at your presentation and also with the use of the tools that you need. So it will get easier, even if there's an initial bit of a learning curve. But once you get past that learning curve, it becomes so much easier. It becomes part of your routine in your system. Anything you start initially feels hard. But with time, and also if you have a support system, you have people that are here to help you learn how to podcast. You have people like me who are willing to take my time to help you, my energy to help you get started, to learn the ropes, to learn the tools. And so you've got plenty of support around you and helps. And that's what I aim to do. So if you have a message and you need to share it in the form of a podcast, I'm your gal to help you with that. So my first step for you in launching your podcast with confidence is to tap into your passions as well as figure out what your actual goals are. I once heard John Maxwell, a wonderful leader that my husband and I have followed for years, and I once heard him say that leaders can be naturally born. A lot of times they are, even though we all have the propensity to develop leadership skills, but some people are more naturally inclined toward leadership just because they are natural born leaders. And that is the case. In many of our lives, some of us have more ability to do certain things than others. And it's not always about leadership. Sometimes, you might have a natural ability at an artistic skill or gift like music or drawing or dance. Maybe your gifting is in numbers. Maybe you run numbers efficiently, whereas someone else would put them in so much pain and misery to have to solve a mathematical equation. So your gifting and your intrinsic nuance towards certain things, and you're leaning towards certain things to be a little bit easier than maybe it is for other people, is how you were hardwired. And so when you see what you're naturally inclined toward being good at, and if you're talking about that thing on your podcast, for example, it's going to come easier, more natural, and it's going to have more of a flow, and it won't seem like it's such a struggle. And so that's why it's important that when you start a podcast, you feel confident about your topic. So if you want to start your podcast confidently, you don't have to know everything there's to know about your topic, but you do need to have a little bit of a natural bent towards what you're talking about in order for it to flow. Now, if you don't feel like you know much about the topic, but you're planning to have guests and interviews with guests on your show that are going to really hash out the topics for you and kind of do the legwork for you. So they're presenting the content and you're being the host and interviewing. If that is the stance that you take, then perhaps you'll be just fine, right, with your show to do it that way. But if you're going to be kind of the main speaker on your podcast and you're going to be providing most of the content in between maybe the times that you're able to book interviews, then you'll want to make sure that your podcast is centered around something that you enjoy talking about. So that's kind of a basic, but it serves as a good reminder. Launching confidently also means, number two, to not compare with other podcasters. So there are people who have been out here podcasting for ages, myself included. When you start your podcast, don't compare to what any of us have been doing for the past 10, 15, 17 years of podcasting. So when you get started, you want to launch your show knowing that you're bringing what you have to the table. You don't need to look at what all the rest of us are doing, what anybody else is out there saying or doing. Let them do what they do and you do you, because that's why you're creating this show. It's to showcase your specific piece of knowledge or your flavor on that knowledge, your take on that concept. Nobody else can bring it the way you can. So just come confidently knowing that it's going to be a unique podcast anyway, because you are the one that is creating the show. So that's what makes it unique. If you want to be confident, number three, you're going to have to be secure with your tools of choice. So I did mention this in one of my other episodes, but please make sure you choose tools that you feel comfortable with. So maybe you don't know until you try it. Try it out and see. If Zoom isn't working for you, try Zencastr, try StreamYard, try whatever else is available. There are so many tools. I couldn't name them all right now. So just do your research and see what tools are available. Try your hands at each of them. You're really going to have to dig in and see what works for you, because what someone else who's been podcasting for 5, 6, 7 years may work for them, maybe that's not the best option for you if you're just getting started, right? So you want to make sure that you feel very comfortable with your process. So you first have to jump in, create a process, figure out a tool and create a process. See how that works. If it doesn't work, do not give up. If it doesn't work for you, it just means that that's not the tool for you. There are plenty of other tools. Ask around, join a podcast Facebook group or something where there's lots of information out there to help you make decisions about what to use and what not to use. So just make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself and that you feel confident with what you are choosing to use on a weekly basis. Lastly, you'll just want to jump right in. Please don't hesitate. Don't second guess yourself. Don't think, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not sure. If you feel like you have a message and you really want to start that podcast, then you have to just jump in there and do it. You have to try, right? And so many thousands of podcasts have pod faded. So you kind of have to look at it in two different ways. Number one, you don't want to start a podcast with the idea that you're not going to continue it for some time. But number two, you also want to keep in mind that you wouldn't be the only one who pod faded if you ever do and whenever you do, because at some point you'll probably say goodbye to your podcast, right? And so that is normal. A lot of people have said goodbye to their podcasting, and I've said goodbye to 4 or 5 already. And so it's okay. When that time and that season comes to an end, it comes to an end. But when you started it, you wanted to make sure that you were serving your audience well. So keeping the momentum going is going to serve you well in so many ways for your business, especially if you are using your podcast as a means to make your brand a lot more cohesive and to bring your message to the forefront to your audience. So if you're podcasting for passion, but not for business, then maybe you have not so much skin in the game. But if you are really wanting to build out your business and you're using your podcast as a way to leverage your voice and your message, then you want to make sure you, number one, have a topic that you can stick with for some time. Number two, you're not comparing yourself to what anybody else is doing. You're perfectly okay with being unique in how you bring your own message. Number three, you're really comfortable with the tools that you've chosen so that that's not a hang up for you when it's time to start recording those episodes, right? And number four, that you're just willing to jump in and try what needs to be tried so you can do this thing, right? So just jump in. You just got to jump in and try. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will be back soon with more information about podcasting. So until then, happy podcasting.